We'll begin with the hearing.
Excuse me. Good morning, committee. My name is Stephen Wu with the Legislative Research Department. I'll be speaking from this document. Looks like this. It'll say State 911 Board at the top. This budget will look a little bit different than others you've seen because if you look at the actuals of 24 as well as the 25 columns, you're going to see zeros. And that's because this agency doesn't come into effect until fiscal year 26. So a bit of background for this agency. For those returning legislators, if you remember HB, I think the number is 2690 last year, that bill converts the 911 Coordinating Council into a state agency, the State 911 Board. Many of the responsibilities this new board will have are outlined in that bill, and many of those responsibilities mirror its current existing responsibilities. You'll see these detailed on the back on page 2. I have included some information on some of the background on these. I won't go through each of these, but would be happy to answer questions on them. Before I forget, I would also like to recognize that Sherry Massey, the Executive Director of the 911 Coordinating Council, is with us in the audience today. I would defer questions on specific agency operations to her. I'd be happy to answer anything on the budgetary side. So page 2 contains some information on the main goals and responsibilities for the State 911 Board. Like I mentioned earlier, many of those goals and responsibilities mirror the 911 Coordinating Councils. You'll see some information on here on what it does, including some information on the geographic GIS system, the Next Generation 911. You'll see some information on hosted solution call systems. This beginning section is a bit more robust because as a new agency, I wanted to set forth the landscape of what this agency does before we dive into the budget. Quick note on financing for this agency before I jump into fiscal year 26. This agency doesn't receive any state general funds. It's primarily funded by 911 fees. You'll see these details on the bottom of page 3. There are 3 major fees: the 911 fee, the prepaid wireless 911 fee, and PSAP cost shares. Those account for the entirety of the agency's budget. So flipping the page, you'll see nothing on page 4 because this agency doesn't come into effect until fiscal year 26, which you'll see begin on page 5. So on page 5, this table here, comparing to previous budgets is a little bit difficult for this because we don't see these numbers in the accounting system until fiscal year 26. So the numbers you see here are the numbers that they represent less on changes, more on what the agency needs for its overall budgeted operations. So you'll see 2 lines here, items 2 and 3, agency operations and aid to local units. Those encompass the cost it takes to run this agency. You'll see that the $15,455,000, that accounts for the agency's operations. This goes to the salaries of its employees, totaling about, they have 14 FTE positions, but about 8 are budgeted to be filled. Those are detailed on the bottom of page 5. There's an executive director, 2 liaisons, a communications and training coordinator and administrative assistant, a technical specialist, and some accounting support positions. There's some remaining positions that are not filled, but the executive director does have the authority to fill those positions as needed. The agency also has some expenditures in contractual services, about $14.3 million. This is a pretty significant portion of its operations. This is primarily to fund the hosted solution contract that eats up the majority of its contractual services spending. There's also some small spending on commodities and capital outlay. The majority of these are associated with transitioning into a new state agency. The 911 Coordinating Council, in order to become a state agency, the State 911 Board, they need to comply with the state's processes in, finance some computers for their employees, vehicles if they need them, just to get on alignment with the remainder of the state. Getting into aid for local units, that accounts for this is item 3, that accounts for the remainder of the agency's budget. It's about a little over $25 million. These dollars are, the numbers you see here are distributed to individual PSAPs across the state and aren't associated with the operations of this agency. So that's about all I have for you for the State 911 Board. The last point I'd like to make is that the Special Committee on Legislative Budget heard this budget November, December of last year. Their recommendations were to concur with what the agency requested. So you'll see no change there. At this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for our analyst from the committee? Representative Resman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Their budget is fee funded, or is it SGF?
The State 911 Board, it's fee funded.
And okay, through what process?
So this is detailed on, let me see, the bottom of page 3, 911 fees. Whenever someone calls 911, a fee is assessed. That fee is assessed on the providers, so like phone providers, that which then builds those into the bills to individuals.
Any further questions from the committee? Representative Howell.
Thank you, Chair. And I apologize. I am sure that it's here in the document, but I cannot find it. But can you just remind me what PSAB stands for?
Oh, right. Let me see.
Or just direct me to the right spot? I'm sure it's
I need
here.
to be able to check that I include. Yeah, it's on the first page. So these are Kansas Public Safety answering points. They are points of contact, entities that serve as points of contact for the 911 system.
Thank you.
Representative Delperdang.
Just to follow up to the question with the representative beside me, you'd mentioned when they call, there's a fee. It should be a fixed fee per month, right? I believe on page 3, 90 cents per month per subscriber. So it's not a per call or anything.
Oh, that's correct, yes.
Do you know what 90 cents equates to dollar-wise? Revenue-wise?
Oh,
Does the full 90 cents go to 911, or is it split up among other organizations?
Do you see that first bullet point, 911 fee? That like last sentence or so will detail that distribution. So about 66 cents of it gets just deposited into the state 911
I missed
fund.
that. Okay. That's what I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you. Would the agency like to come up? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Massey. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council and overseeing the transition into the State 911 Board.
Very good. Any questions from the committee for the director? All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. That will close our budget hearing on the State 911 Board. We will open recommendations. We will begin recommendations with the abstractors. Board of Examiners. All right, I will move that we go with the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007 for FY '25. Can I get a second? Any discussion on the abstractors 25? If there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, 25 is approved. Moving on to 26. I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007 for FY '26. Can I get a second? Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, 26 is approved. Moving on to FY 2027. I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007 for FY '27. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? All right, 2027 is approved. We will close the budget recommendation for the Abstractors Board of Examiners. We'll move on to the Board of Technical Professions. I will open the budget recommendation for Board of Technical Professions, starting with FY 2025. I move the legislative budget recommendation HB 2007 for FY '25. Can I get a second? Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? All right, FY '25 is approved. Moving on to FY 2026. I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007, for FY '26 with one adjustment, removing the $30,000 for the social media consultant. We've had some discussion about that. Seemed like that either could be pushed off for another year, or I didn't hear from the agency that it was all that important this year. So that would be my recommendation. Can I get a second? All right, any discussion? All right, no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no? No. I think the ayes have it. 26 is approved as amended. Moving on to FY 2027. I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007 for FY '25, with the following adjustment, removing $31,000 for the social media consultant for '27. Same as '26. We can have a discussion next year, but this year it didn't seem like it was top priority. Can I get a second? Okay, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. I believe the ayes have it. FY '27 is approved as amended. All right, that will close the budget recommendations for the Board of Technical Professions. We'll move on to Board of Indigent Defense Services. All right, we will open the budget recommendation for bids. Starting with FY '25, I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007, for FY '25. Can I get a second? Second, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. All right, FY '25 is approved. Moving on to FY 2026. I move the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation, HB 2007, for FY 2026. Can I get a second? Seconded. Any discussion? Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move that we add in the $1,665,575 to provide public defender positions a 10% salary increase for 2026. We have heard, I mean, we just did not approve for the caseload work for contractors that are addressing the FTE shortages for '25. So I really think that we need to do this for the employees who are picking up that work. We know that there are the vacancies that students are going to be coming on board, but this I just think it's very needed, and we've received a list of all of the caseload work that these individuals are taking on, and I view it as very important and a very needed enhancement for '26.
Is there a second? All right. Any discussion? I will just say, with the 289 FTEs, there are 31 vacancies. I know they had mentioned that 18 were going to start in 2025, sometime around August or September, if everything goes well, obviously with passing the bar. With that being the case, that's a lot of vacancies, and those are positions that are funded and have been funded year over year. And that's why we're seeing such a high reappropriation year after year. So my opinion would be to lapse that funding, and they have, seems like they have the funding that gets reappropriated and brought on year after year. Any further discussion? Representative Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe everyone in this body was a party of the statements that were made by our Supreme Court justices with respect to what's going to take place if we don't do something to take care of this matter that's at hand. Yesterday, we heard further discussion from Heather Cessna about what was going to take place. There comes a time where, as a legislative body, we need to do what's best for Kansas. You know, this continual minor Band-Aid on what's a huge gouge, in my opinion, is just it's not a fix and it doesn't move us anywhere forward. We hear testimony and we have hearings frequently from law enforcement officers and law enforcement agencies here, whereby they request additional funds for additional services, and it would appear that we don't have the ability to say no to any of them. Therefore, if they're being effective in what they do, they are certainly making more arrests. If they make more arrests, then we certainly have more people that would be introduced into our legal system. And at some point, Mr. Chair, we're going to have to do something about that. I personally would like to even look at the addition of the 29 FTEs that were requested then by the agency. You know, I understand that that there's going to be an increase in payments to the assigned counsel. However, again, I believe that's no more than a small Band-Aid on a problem that's or an issue that's certainly not going away. I would just think that as a body, we should look at this and certainly try to do something that was going to be more of a long-term fix than just these minor Band-Aids. Thank you.
I appreciate your concerns, Representative. If you look at the first page of the budget summary, 2024 actuals to 2025 Legislative Budget Committee, and then the 26 Budget Committee, it's still jumping, the agency's still jumping about 6.6 million if you go with the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation. The 29 FTEs that were being asked for with 31 vacancies seems, to me, I don't know why we'd go to 60 vacancies. So for now, they're still getting a jump in their budget. That would be my opinion. Representative Foy.
Just for clarification, this funding is for a 10% salary increase. Specifically, we heard that they're at a starting salary of $62,500. And when there are that many vacancies, I think we all know that we're asking the staff to do a lot. This work still has to get done. We have to provide this support in indigent defense. So if we do not do this appropriation, they cannot provide those salary increases. So, you know, as a budget committee, we absolutely have responsibility to our taxpayers, but I would also ask us to put our employer hats on here. I believe this is very needed, and what we're asking, especially if we're not providing them that funding for contractual services. We're asking them to pick up a lot, and I would just urge everyone to think of that on this particular item.
Thank you. One point I'll make off of that is what's kind of been standard in the last few years in the Appropriations Committee is salaries and wages kind of get pushed to the end, and I think that's what we're looking to do again this year. So I think that's why LBC removed a lot of that. Any further discussion on 26? Oh, we're on your amendment. Any further discussion on Representative Hoy's amendment? All right. If there's no more discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? No. All right. The opinion is the noes have it. Everybody that voted yes, raise your hand. Okay, that's 4. All noes. Okay, and I will vote no. So that amendment or motion fails. Back on FY 2026. Any further discussion? If no further discussion, all in favor of the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation HB 2007 for 26, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, I think that's a yes. FY 2026 has passed, and that will close the budget recommendation for bids for 25 and 26. Any further comments for the committee? All right, if there's no comments, we are adjourned. Thank you.